Welcome to When Spreadsheets Hit the Fan, a Birdview podcast. This is a show for leaders in fast-growing professional service organizations looking for the latest conversations around service delivery best practices. Let's get into the show.
Hello and welcome to When Spreadsheets Hit the Fan. I'm your host, John Litterick. In today's episode, I talked to Zachary McGrath. Zachary is a director within the Field Examiners Group at LCG Advisors. He's been with the firm for nearly 14 years. LCG Advisors is a firm that performs financial due diligence services for lenders, private equity groups, and other stakeholders. Zachary regularly performs due diligence engagements while also managing a group of 8 to 10 field examiners that are working with their own projects. Zach, as a manager of both projects and people, must remain organized and informed. Zach relies on his experience, but he is also exploring new tools and techniques to stay ahead of the game. Zach is involved with the management of projects from setting up the scope with clients to sending out invoices. Zachary strongly believes in empowering his team members to make their own decisions on how to get projects completed while ensuring the projects remain within scope. During his tenure at LCG, he's become an expert-level user of spreadsheets for a variety of applications. He also has a unique experiences using professional service automation software platforms over the years. Zach has a Bachelor of Arts from Wake Forest University and an MBA from the University of Tampa. Today, Zachary and I are going to talk about things such as why you shouldn't work with stingy customers. We're going to talk about what it looks like to work with a good customer and create a win-win vendor-customer ecosystem. And then, finally, how can you as an organization start to maximize working with your ideal customer profile? If you like what you hear on today's episode, please follow the show and leave a rating wherever you're listening. Let's jump right into it. Well, Zach, I've been looking forward to speaking with you. I think your business is really, really interesting. We definitely want to, hear you describe it a little bit. And you've been doing it for a long time. Tell us in your industry, what your industry is and, quickly what it does and what you see the biggest mistakes organizations in your industry making. What should they do, stop doing right away?
Yeah, this is a real interesting question. And for my industry, we're in the due diligence business. And for our business and probably a lot of other businesses, our projects are thought of as necessary evils sometimes. They're not projects that really lead to sales or lead to revenue, but they have to be done as a matter of the business requirements. So there are many folks that just want to minimize the kind of projects that we do when it comes to due diligence. They want to just minimize the costs, minimize the time necessary. They want to go for the lowest possible budget and are stingy about increasing budgets. So that is the challenge for the folks that are in my industry. We're constantly trying to work with clients to make sure that they're giving us the proper budgets. But I think the mistake that people make is that they're continuing to accept work from clients that are stingy, clients that are not willing to expand the budgets when needed. So that's the problem that a lot of professional services organizations face, and that's certainly the one where we are constantly dealing with.
That's interesting. We also here at Easy Projects work with a lot of professional services organizations, and haven't come across that. So I'm really really curious about that, and I think our listening audience will be as well. So can you give me a specific example where a customer's being stingy and where you've seen this mistake? And can you describe how it can have a negative impact on the organization in sort of tangible things like, how would it affect things beyond, lack of revenue? Would it, affect resources? What about intangible things like brand and reputation? So if we bring on a stingy customer, like you're saying, what's the negative impact?
Yeah, I'm thinking of examples. One comes to mind. We were working with a client that was, working with a borrower. So, we're working with the lender. The lender is our client. That lender is trying to make a loan to a borrower, and we are, trying to help them close the deal. performing the due diligence. This borrower had a couple of divisions, and they wanted us to perform the due diligence on both divisions. The problem that we encountered is that one of the two divisions that we were doing the due diligence on was much more complicated than the other one, but yet we were given an equal budget to do both divisions.
Oh, okay.
So we had 2 resources assigned to this exam, but one of them ended up having to do a lot more work than the other. So we go to the client and we're like, hey, here's the problem we're encountering, that this borrower that you're trying to work with, one of their divisions is much more complicated. They have a much more complicated manufacturing process. They have a much longer throughput process and work that they're trying to put through their manufacturing facilities. It's going to take much more analysis to make sure that they're costing everything correctly. And the borrower, or and the lender, our client, comes back to us and says, no, it's very simple. The one division gets, we're going to pay for this much budget, and this other division has the same budget. What's the problem? And we're like, well, here's they were very stingy and wouldn't work with us on the, not understanding or not willing to, consider all the challenges that we were facing. So, so what do? We end up having to finish both projects on the same budget. And it's difficult because you mentioned reputation. Well, we can't just hand in a half-baked report on one division. Our name's going to be on that report. We can't afford to, put out a product that is less than exceptional. So, we put in the extra hours and made sure to complete the report in a manner that protects us and protects our client, but we end up eating a lot of that cost. And it's just one of those things where you have the assignment, you're working with the client, but you end up earning less revenue, and maybe even that project becomes a very low margin engagement because the client wasn't willing to pay for the value that's being provided.
Wow. Excellent insight. I think, anybody that's running a professional services organization, regardless of what they're doing, can relate to that. And I think you gave some really great examples of how it impacts you. And you're right, like your reputation's on the line. You've got to deliver good work so you have to be careful about, who you take on. So I think, there's a lot of wisdom in that. So if we don't take on stingy customers, what do we take on? What should we do in terms of, what's a great customer?
Yeah, I think the answer that we've come up with and that we've tried to implement over the years is just, it's pretty simple. Well, I should say it's simple but not easy, and it's really just about making sure that our clients understand that our interests are aligned with theirs. We spend a lot of time relationship building with our clients to avoid these situations where they don't trust us, or they're stingy about the budget because they think, oh, they're just trying to gouge us. And I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to close deals. They have their own clients that they're trying to make sure that they're serving well. So they're pushing back on us. But what we need to do, what we have been making every effort to do, is make sure that our clients understand that we're on their side. We're their partner. We refer to them as partners as much as we can, internally and externally. We don't want them to think that, oh, they're just a client or they're just a customer. They're our partners, and we do everything we can to make them feel that way. I mean, part of it is just making sure that they understand our interests are aligned.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the head. It's, business today isn't about like a buyer and seller. It's about an ecosystem, where everybody's partnering to have a win-win. And I think that's the right model. And that means customers have to be willing, to pay for that partnership, right? Because if they win and you don't, it's not a partnership. So one of the things that we're trying to do on When Spreadsheets Hit the Fan for our listeners is challenge our guests to come up with a simple maximum that people could, remember, after they've listened to the call for a couple of days. That maximum is, what would I stop doing? What would I start doing in one sentence? So do you think you could, take what you've said, the wisdom you shared, and boil it down to a stop-start statement?
Yeah, I would say that it's, stop worrying about efficiency and start worrying about relationships. We
Love it. Love it. Great. That you nailed it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's hear it one more time.
I'd say stop worrying about efficiency, start worrying about relationships, because, with our clients, lenders are very worried about the due diligence and the costs and how this is going to impact their competitiveness. And, it's up to us to help, make sure that they understand that we're in this together. We're a partner with them.
Projects, resources, finances, a single source of truth for service delivery teams. Birdview PSA helps increase profitability by automating and optimizing the entire service delivery cycle. To learn more, visit easyprojects.net/birdview-PSA.
So it's interesting, when you say it like that, it just seems so self-evident, right? So why is something so self-evident? Why do you think organizations are still making this mistake of going after customers that don't want to partner with them?
Well, it's a good question. I know that when we are working with a client and that client has a client on their end that they're trying to please, I touched on this a moment ago, that, they feel the competitive pressure to make sure they're doing right by their customer. So, it's understandable. I mean, closing sales is critical. But, again, they have to change their, we have to help them change their mindset that, we're a partner with them. Our partnership is critical. They need our help to close the deals. We need their help to keep our resources busy. So, we change their perspective on, hey, the due diligence folks are not here to wreck our deal. They're here to make our deal stronger, and they're here to create a win-win for us. So that's the message that we have for our clients, and we try to convey that in various ways. Obviously there's the different kinds of relationship building. I mean, we try to take the folks out to dinner and do those kinds of things, but it also means during the project we're engaging in constant communication with them, letting them know on the front end that, this isn't just a fixed fee project. There's going to be a range of costs depending on what challenges we encounter. And it helps get their skin in the game. Like, okay, if this is the range of costs, then we're going to aim for the lower end. If at all possible, we'll do whatever it takes to keep the cost lower, but understanding that the cost could creep higher if we don't get this project, in the, in a position where it's going to be completed efficiently.
Excellent. This next question, if you can't answer it, that's okay. But beyond, your personal experience, which is also my personal experience, I've been involved in sales in one format for almost 30 years. And I feel you, like, when there's a big difference when you're partnering with the customer and you both have a win-win mentality in a relationship than when it's just, everybody's trying to get, the lowest price. It's a totally different value proposition. So, I feel what you're saying, but what about evidence? Do you have any evidence to back that up? How, a value-based partnership is way more profitable, than customers that are working with customers that are stingy, looking for efficiencies?
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of research on our own data. I mean, we track how much time we spend on each project, and we're, we try to measure how much time we spent versus how much we were able to bill for. And, that delta is something that we've been trying to shrink, just like every professional service organization out there is trying to shrink that delta. But the percentage can vary broadly. I think there's some projects where we might be, 20% off. There's some where we're only maybe 1 or 2% off. I'd say the average is probably 5 to 10% variance between what the time we put in versus the time we're able to bill for. And that is something we're still trying to shrink that variance. I think we still have room to improve there, but 5 to 10% can be mid six figures for a business our size. So there's definitely still what seems like some low hanging fruit for us to try and get to it. And it's hard to measure that variance from one client who's stingy to the other clients that are not, that are very partner oriented like we want them to be. I wouldn't say that we have that exactly figured out, but certainly, when we work with clients that are willing to pay us the true value of the work we do, there's a lot of intangibles there. There's the consultants feel like they're being respected and that their time is being valued correctly. Obviously, the management feels like that is those are projects worth our time, and we're able to focus more of our resources with those clients and fewer of our resources with the clients that are trying to stick it to us. So,
excellent. Yeah. So, I think you make a very compelling argument, both from an experience and, that you're looking at the data and you're starting to analyze it, and you're at the early stages, but it's showing, what in your gut. Okay. So let's move away from, kind of the what and the theory, and let's talk about how do I, as a, person responsible for bringing in new customers, how do I start, avoiding, stingy customers just looking for those low prices, minimum efficiencies and cost, and start looking for someone who really wants to partner, in a value-based, partnership. What's step one?
I think when it comes to relationship building, it's something that really starts at the top. There should be kind of a mission statement that's, from the strategic leaders of the business that can be communicated down to middle management, down to the frontline consultants. Some of this could be initiated by frontline employees, I suppose, or maybe middle managers have some ideas. But if there's not if there's not support from top management, it's just not going to have broad-based results that can be evaluated in a meaningful way. So I think it does start at the top, and it has to be, I know mission statements can be cheesy, but I think that is something that ends up being referred to again and again, whether we consciously do it or not. The value of relationship building has to be something that every single person they understand shares that value.
Very good. Very good. Besides, upper management providing, sort of like a framework for guidance, would there be any other steps to implement this that you can think of?
Yeah, sure. Once you have that value established in a mission statement or some other type of pronouncement coming, that is voicing the support for that, I think the next steps are kind of logically follow from that, which includes, making sure that, policies and procedures for consultants show that their interests are aligned with the clients. This goes into performance evaluations for consultants and for middle managers. It goes into compensation.
Of course. Yeah, would need to. Yeah.
Yeah, for consultants and middle managers, they need to be evaluated and compensated for the efforts that they put into relationship building. I would also say that, when it comes to work-life balance issues and how those can, have an impact on consultants, they need to be implemented in all the policies and procedures throughout the company.
Your plan does make a lot of sense. I mean, if everybody in the organization is empowered to understand, I'm going to call it your ideal customer profile or ideal, partner, you're just going to bring on more of the right type of customers and partners, right? And you're going to create that win-win for yourselves. But good ideas, even with good plans, things can go awry. So do you have any advice for if someone wants to start to think this way of how they're going to run their professional services firm? What kind of resistances might they face, or what could go wrong?
Well, there's definitely going to be some clients. If you have 100 clients, there's going to be a certain percentage that are not receptive to the partnership mentality, and those are the clients. Those are usually the clients that are also stingy on budgets and are difficult to work with in other ways. Not every business can afford to just fire clients. Sometimes it's the right thing to do, but it's not the right time to do it. So
yes, good point.
It's something that there's going to be resistance from clients. There may be some resistance internally as well. So some of consultants and middle managers may be uncomfortable with changing how they deal with clients. They may be, they may require a certain amount of training. I think a certain amount of training would be required for everyone. It wouldn't have to be a very expensive training program, but some people also just don't respond to training, and they are just not interested in having those kinds of relationships with clients. And so those people, would have to either be willing to change their ways, or they would have to be, have to consider moving on to another position.
You've really, given us some great ideas here. For me, personally, as a business development person for 25 years, and as one of the business development people for Easy Projects, you've reminded me of something I already believe. Got to look for those partnerships. And I think, anybody listening to our program, whether they're a CEO or a consultant, you've probably validated for them what's in their heart, and reaffirmed with your experience how important it is, right? That business today is really about everybody winning, right? And that's it. It starts with fair value in the equity. I think you did a great job articulating that. I learned a lot. I know our audience will want to really appreciate for your time. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Hey, thanks, John. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to When Spreadsheets Hit the Fan, a Birdview podcast. Keep connected with us by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you like what you've heard, please rate the show. That helps us to keep delivering the latest and best practices for professional service teams. Until next time.